So you brought a Teen Beat magazine.
Yes.
So that's where this is going, huh?
That's where this is going.
Excellent.
Back in the day, like looking back on it now, like 90s heartthrob Devon Sawa, you were just a teenager trying to pubesce, and everybody wants a piece of you. Can you walk us a little bit through that world, like what it's like to be you?
So here's the thing. In Vancouver, Canada, where I was from at the time, those teen magazines weren't really a thing.
Yep.
So I had done Casper, and I had done Little Giants, and they were coming out, and I guess that whole thing was happening, the teen magazines, but I didn't really know how big it was because none of the girls in my high school had those on their lockers.
Amazing.
It wasn't a thing. It wasn't big. So I didn't really know, and it's not until I got Wild America and we started traveling around to promote it that I realized that those teen magazines were actually, it took me a couple of years. There was also the fan mail got stopped at the border and we couldn't vouch for it. So I was kind of in the dark, and maybe that was a good thing. But yeah, that's kind of...
Yeah, I think that's probably for the best, because I've realized now, like being someone who collected these magazines and now I write for a magazine, looking back, I'm like, it'd be women like me writing these cringy things about preteens and teens.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, your fan base are like 9 to 14-year-olds. Just a super awkward place to be. Like looking back now or at the moment, like did it ever give you that ick feeling?
Well, I probably was one of the harder people to deal with these magazines, just because I came from like a little hockey town, and they were asking me things like to hold puppies and shit, and like I wasn't into it. Like they were, what's your favorite thing to do on a date? And I was more into sports, and I don't know. It was weird. It was a weird time. But
We're glad that like you made it here.
Yeah,
and,
no, totally.
And you're still successful as an actor. Like, what do you attribute your success? Like, you're healthy, you're family oriented, you're still working. To come from a child star to now, that's a rare thing.
Yeah, I took 5 years out of the business, and in those 5 years, this is my 20s, and in those 5 years, I realized how much I really love what I did. And I still love it, and luckily I just keep getting things that re-inspire me. Like my agents were very nervous handing me the Chucky script because they didn't know what I would feel about it, but I flipped out. It's all I wanted to do. I was like, saw it, and never in a million years did I think I'd be getting killed season after season by Chucky. I mean, I used to go down to the video store and rent all these, Critters and Ghoulies and Child's Play and all these, anything, Nightmare on Elm Street, all those movies. And now I'm working with one of the most iconic of the group. I'm not supposed to be talking about that.
Can you talk about it in the past?
Erase that on your phones if anybody's recording. Erase that. Sorry. I could talk.
You have worked.
Yes, I worked.
You have.
Anyways, you got a little bit too much information there.
It's not happening right now. Nothing's happening.
Anyways, it's been a ride. It's been a ride, and I'm happy where I am.
Nice.
Yes.
Was your move into horror like a thing that you wanted to do, or was it calculated to get away from that heartthrob thing? While I was doing some of my earlier movies, the Caspers, the Wild America, all those kind of movies, I was a huge horror fan. I was a huge Bruce Campbell fan. He inspired Idle Hands. I try to do at least one a year of something horror, even if we make it for $5. Hunter was made for $5. It was really, we went up into the woods, we shot this little independent movie, and I love it to death. It's intense.
That's why I don't do 90s cons or any of those things. I stick with the horror conventions because these are my peeps, and this is what I do what you love, and that's horror. So. Yeah.
Speaking of Idle Hands, I rewatched it the other day and I was like, this is a fantastic movie. But also to see like all the influences from different horror movies, obviously Bruce Campbell. When the hand is still your hand, how much of that is you acting, or is there like special effects going on there?
It's all me acting. I told Bruce we did a movie called Black Friday, and I told him that I ripped him off. I was Evil Dead 2 and the dishes and all that stuff. Like we used to do that on the trampoline, and we used to hit ourselves with inner tubes and roll off the trampoline. It was all Bruce Campbell. We used to think the world of him. And so Idle Hands wasn't Idle Hands when I got the script. It was there was one scene in the movie where his hand gets possessed. The rest of it's his mother. And one scene, his hand gets possessed, and that was one of the audition scenes. So I walked into this studio with all these Sony executives in suits and whatever, and I just started banging myself into walls and rolling over tables like Bruce Campbell. And then it got a major rewrite, and I got the part, and it became Idle Hands. But yeah, what was the question?
Just like how much was you?
Yeah, no, it was all me. They even when it gets cut off, they had they were going to put one of those green socks and get it out digitally, but I was so skinny at the time that I was able to put my arm in its own sleeve, and that's why they put a little stump on the thing, and so even then, but it was all. I mean, the joy of Idle Hands, it was mostly practical effects. The bottle, Eldon and Seth went in 4 hours early every day and got the bottle and got the tape and all the veins and everything. It was all old school practical effects.
I think that's why it still holds up now.
Yeah.
Because if we had done that in like a CGI when early mid 90s, it wouldn't look good now.
Yeah, that's one of the joys of Chucky. Is Chucky's mostly practical. The only CGI we use is to get rid of the puppeteers in certain scenes, but everything else is pretty much practical effects.
Interesting. And speaking of a show that you have worked on in the past.
I'm horrible at this.
Since you have been different characters every season, which
we got a beer from this.
Yeah.
Sorry, unfortunately, this is.
Can you talk about acting? And you're playing two different people in the same show. How do you keep yourself straight when you're going into like which person am I playing right now?
If there's a particular show that I'm doing that I have to play multiple characters, I kind of a character. If a character puts on a certain outfit, and you just think of a major, I wore coveralls and I played an alcoholic, and it just all, they put this goatee on me, and it's all kind of, you look in the mirror and it just kicks in, you know what I mean? And the other guy, the twin brother, he's had a better life, so I feel like he stands up a little straighter, he holds his head a little higher, whereas the father is, he's got some issues and he's always kind of hunched over, and certain things that, the priest is, he's very flamboyant and kind of glides along heavenly, and there's all sorts of things that I think about before getting into these guys. So.
Awesome. Well, I have a ton of questions, but I know people probably have some too, so maybe we can sprinkle some in here and there. Does anyone have a burning question that they want to come and ask? The person dressed up in a costume that we can't mention?
Yes.
Because you can't mention what I'm wearing,
right.
I just wanted to know, how does it feel having Dr. Dre produce Stan and then being in that music video, which is one of the most iconic things, and to the point where I'm a stan of Chucky and people are a stan of you.
Yeah, no, it's very flattering. It's a very interesting story because I don't know if anybody knows this. Macaulay Culkin was some of the other people's first pick. They wanted to go with Macaulay Culkin as Stan, and for some reason, which is a choice. I guess it's a whole different feel. But Dre was a huge Final Destination fan at the time, and so when it wasn't working with Macaulay Culkin, I got a call from some friends of some friends that said, hey, do you want to do a music video directed by Dre with just sort of a fresh Eminem. He wasn't quite. He had his first album out, but he was glowing up, but no one thought he was going to have the longevity that he had. And my managers didn't want me to do it. My agents didn't want me to do it. They thought doing a music video was a horrible idea, and I did it anyways. And thank God. It's still to this day one of the things I'm most proud of is those 3 days were a ride. Let me tell you, I was one of the only people not partying on the set. I remember D12 being there and Cypress Hill and some of the Lakers, and it was just crazy. It was good. It was fun. I'm very flattered to be in it, and I'm glad that the word Stan is survived.
You're a meme.
Yeah, a guy that throws his girlfriend in the trunk and goes over a bridge is such a positive thing nowadays.
I grew up with being bullied and stuff.
Right.
So that song, that album,
really.
So you being in a music video, it's I've watched so many times.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Does anyone else have a question?
You could. I can hear you. I don't even know why.
The the movie Fanatic.
Yes. Yes.
Great movie.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Underrated.
Thank you.
Have you had
it's you know.
special taste?
It's definitely for a special taste.
Have you had any experiences like that yourself?
Yes. I unfortunately, my wife actually had to deal with it. She had somebody that got, we had the police over a bunch of times to deal with somebody that was sending her, videos, and they would get a hold of her through her work and whatnot. And there weren't, I think Moose in the Fanatic was a little bit more tame than she was. She was a little bit more dangerous, but yeah. Unfortunately, I've dealt with that a couple times. So, but Moose was kind of cute. He was harmless until he stabbed me. Then he wasn't so good. So,
price of fame.
Yeah.
Is anyone else? We could do one more question. Yeah.
Hi. So the show that shall not be named.
Yeah.
Was obviously really LGBT positive,
yeah.
Which is awesome. Mm-hmm. Which you don't see very much in horror either. Have you guys got any negative backlash about that, or? Yeah,
there's always going to be hateful people in the world. It doesn't matter what you do. There's always going to be an asshole out there. This is the first time that Don Mancini has been able to tell the stories.
A person.
Yeah. The answer is yes. We've gotten some backlash on that, and I'm glad we're on the right side of history in the show. So thank you. I don't know if I'm. Anyways.
Speaking of interesting movies and working with musicians, because Fred Durst directed The Fanatic, which was interesting. But you've also worked on Death Riders in the House of Vampires of Danzig.
Yeah. So I love Fred Durst, and Fred Durst is what got me to Glenn Danzig. I had such a phenomenal job working with Fred Durst, but Fred Durst is a different beast. Fred Durst is very knowledgeable in the film business, and he wants to be director, and Glenn Danzig is
special person.
Listen, if I saw him at a Ralph's supermarket, I'd give him a hug and ask him how he's doing, but I don't know about it was an interesting shoot.
Yeah. Which I think hasn't really been widely released yet, but I think they are.
No, because he likes to control. He shows it whenever he wants. He'll drive it out to the desert and put it on a screen. Like I'll give him this. He is a true rock star in the most bizarre way. Like we got to set one day and he didn't like the color of a wall. And so he decided he wanted it painted. So we all went and waited 4 hours while they painted this wall and let it dry, and really didn't need to be painted. It was not. It was such a,
not even in
but
the shot.
It's Glenn Danzig, and he's a rock star, and so I guess we did it. Welcome. You have a question? Everything's working great. I can talk about that.
Talk about the mic setup,
He had the right questions.
Oh God. Yeah, I've heard that actually coming out soon. There's going to be different, of that movie. I think you have your own cover of one of Danzig's movies. He's releasing 4 or 5 different special editions.
Oh, good.
We'll see. Yeah.
Okay. I kind of like that he doesn't show it to anybody.
Yeah. This is terrifying.
I haven't seen it. I don't know. It could be the greatest thing ever. I haven't
seen it. I got a link for it once when it first came out, and then we got kicked out 2 minutes in. So
so Eli Roth was also in the movie, and Eli Roth I was like, what's going on here? And Eli Roth kept turning to me and goes, just enjoy this. Just go with this. I'm like, oh, God, where are we? But
I mean, I've seen Veronica several times for some reason.
Well,
that was a pandemic watch.
Here's the problem, though. Veronica is one of the, I think Veronica is one of those movies that he didn't have any, for his next movie, Death Rider or whatever, he had a full crew and cast of real working people,
actors.
So it was only him that was fucking everything up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it could be then again, maybe I just didn't see what he is a good dude.
Yeah, he's been around for a long time for a reason, right? He's very talented.
Yes, he showed me all his kung fu moves.
That's in the special edition.
Yeah, it was that the movie should have been the making of the movie.
Yeah, I would watch that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would watch that. Speaking of music, I'd like to read a passage from in 1998, I think, Tiger Beat, Teen Beat, I don't know what this is. And the article is called Sawa Secrets. Not many of them are secrets. They're like, you went to a basketball camp. But apparently, Devon likes to play his music very loud, so loud it's caused neighbors to frown. I'm wondering, what were you listening to at the time, and what are you listening to now?
What year was that?
I think it was 98, maybe, somewhere in there.
Yeah, no, it was always some sort of hip hop at that time.
Oh.
And then like 70s rock and stuff like that. But now it's just all over the place. Like, I just recently, because of my kid, got into Ice Nine Kills, who I get to see all the time. Obviously Metallica for a million years, but then I still listen to, you know, everybody from Kendrick to old Tupac and Biggie, and I'm all over the place. I'm all over the place. I just love music.
Same. And so I always wonder too, like when you're preparing for a role, is there a certain genre or a certain song that you listen to kind of like hype yourself up to like go to set that day?
Yeah, there. For instance, I did a movie where I played a bad guy, and I would listen to really like almost like Chet Baker jazz, just because I didn't want the bad guy to be like this typical '80s mustache twirling. I wanted him to be calm and grounded, and you know, and a real person.
Yeah.
So I just kind of listened to mellow stuff, you know, and then.
That's cool. That's more terrifying, I think, than like blasting Metallica.
Yeah, it's a different way to look at the bad guys. He's the good guy. If you just, that's kind of how you look at it. That's how I look at it. Is how do I make this guy the good guy and really believe it? Then he's a really appealing bad guy. So
that's cool. Does anyone else have a question they want to throw out there? In the very back, I see a hand.
I'm a spontaneous friend. I'm sure you get asked this all the time. Can I keep you?
Yeah, a few times, but yes, you can.
Does anyone else have? Do you find that you have like a newer fan base, because like the term Final Destination is now like a known thing that people talk about, and like Casper is a bunch of memes, Stan's a bunch of memes. Do you find that you have fans now that like weren't around at the 90s time, but they're new now?
I feel like I'm fortunate enough to have different groups of fans. Like I have the fans that, you know, are reading that stuff, and then I have like, and then interesting story is I did those magazines, and then when you're 17, 18 years old, I didn't want to be in those magazines. The last thing I wanted to do was be in those magazines. I didn't want to be known as a teen heartthrob or any of that. So I started doing movies like Idle Hands, SLC Punk. Thank you. But at that time, I wanted to be edgier, and you know. Now it's all good. But you know, so that I would start doing those kind of things, and then I have different groups of fans. I have the fans that that like the Eminem, SLC Punk stuff, and then those kind of fans, and I'm just fortunate that I have those different groups, and people have stuck around long enough to watch the new Chuck.
That show.
That thing.
Yeah, I always thought it was cool that I'm like, yeah, this is like an actor I watched in movies when I was a teenager, and now like you've grown with my interests and you're into horror. So like it's really cool watching that, and to see you still working. Yeah, it's very exciting. Is there any other questions? Green hair over there.
I just have to say, one of my sister's and my most quoted lines is, "The devil's in my house. He killed my mom and he turned her into a bull." Yes. I just love that so much, and I just was wondering what your experience was like working on SLC.
Yeah, that guy kind of represented me back then, like. That I actually, with those, I loved those green spiky things so much that I got on a plane in a velour Tommy Hilfiger tracksuit and those things and rode home, and it was just a different time. It was we had so much fun shooting that thing. We were fearless. I didn't care what anybody thought. I was getting on that chair and I was seeing the ocean, and my mom was turning into a bull, and it was a lot of fun. It was. Yeah, it was really cool. I love that people still bring it up too. It's a good flick.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's a hand in the back there.
Just a maybe simple question, but what was when you look back at your career so far, what's your favorite time? Whether it was shooting it with certain actors, whether it was the movie that you liked, or if it was Stan, like what was your favorite where you're looking back and you're like, that's what like the best moment?
The Shooting Idle Hands was it was the last movie I did as a kid. Like I was 18, but I was a kid then. Like it was before. After that, it felt like everything was a job. Idle Hands was like summer camp. It was like we all got together. We goofed around for 3 months. There was blood and laughing, and we were doing a movie about a possessed hand, and Blink-182 was there, and Offspring. It was just fucking fun. It was just really cool to shoot. Then then you go do Final Destination right after, where it's cold Canadian nights, and we just want to go home, and everything's cold and eerie, and it turned out really, really great. But Idle Hands was I just remember just having a blast for 3 months. We shot it out by Magic Mountain in California, and maybe because I didn't have to come in 4 hours early and get prosthetic makeup and everything, but it was just a really good time.
I'm not surprised if that's your answer. So.
Yeah. That Stan was really quick. It felt more iconic. I remember walking from the studio. I don't know why, but it was Dre, it was M, and it was a couple other people, and I remember walking down this dark highway with just them, and I thought, holy shit, I'm with like NWA right now. It's like this is the coolest thing ever. But yeah, no, Idle Hands is definitely the most fun I had still to date. So.
And to go on the other side of that, I'm always interested, like looking back at your career, hopefully you don't have anything that you're like absolutely regret, but like looking back at some of your performances, is there something you would go back and change how you did it?
I mean, I'm sure there's all sorts of scenes I look back at, and I look back, and this is the stupidest one. Little Giants. I thought my acting was awful in it, and I would. This is movie 2, but I would go back the kissing the mouth half open scene on the little boat. I would like to go back and change that. I don't know. There's probably tons of scenes that I would go back and change and fix, and now that I've grown as an artist, I suppose.
Yeah, I think in general, like anything looking back at what you did as a kid, you're gonna be like, what were you doing, man?
Yeah. I know that Christina Ricci isn't that excited about her role in Casper, which is.
I've heard that, which is crazy.
Yeah,
she's incredible.
Yeah, she is incredible. She is incredible. But that's you see things that other people don't see.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I felt like in Little Giants. I mean, I was 14, but anyways.
Yeah. Can you tell us a bit more about Christina Ricci? You were in 2 movies together.
Yeah, she's great. We see each other. We rode a plane for the first time, and we saw each other in 15 years, and we rode on a plane, or 20 years or something, and it was just like we hadn't skipped a beat. It was just like 2 old friends. I mean, we did a lot of stuff. She's great. She's really cool.
Yeah. It's cool to watch both of you kind of came from Casper, and you've both gone on your own horror journey.
Yeah, and she's killing it, man. She's talked about it at the Emmys every year now, and I'm really proud of her.
Nice.
So
yeah, it's good to see people thriving, good people.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions?
I'm sure it's out there in the universe somewhere, but
it will be now. Get it out there. If it isn't.
So about Final Destination 2, were you ever in talks to return for that? And subsequently, when they made Final Destination 5, were you consulted beforehand?
No. 2, there was talks, and it didn't work out for, I'll never really know what agents and studios and managers and whatnot decided, but there was talks in the beginning, and then it didn't go forward. I think the plan was always to kind of reboot with young, cheaper kids every time. 5 I wasn't, and it was I didn't know. They invited me to the premiere of it, and I hadn't been invited to the premieres, and so it was kind of a surprise. But I am a huge fan of every single one of the films. 4 is my least favorite, but 5 is my favorite. I think 5 is the whole bridge sequence is they just absolutely killed it with that. The log truck is it's hard to beat the log truck, and I know some of the stuff going on in the next one they're gonna shoot, and it sounds phenomenal, and so I love the artists that are involved in that film, and so it was just a studio thing I think at the time.
Okay.
But
do you get any back end to that though, that they use that footage and your character in 5?
I know. Hence the strike.
You mean you don't want to work for exposure? Just think of how many people see it.
Great exposure.
Speaking about Final Destination, actually, I was thinking about it today coming over the Sky Bridge, looking it down. Has anyone seen you get on a plane and like, nope, out of there?
People have made comments, but when Skeet Ulrich, we were on a plane, we didn't even met, but I don't know, I think it was direct rumors, but he had some duct tape on his window, and he looked over at me, and he goes, "Is this okay?" And I didn't know whether he was referencing Final Destination or not. Could have been. But I rode a plane with Tony Todd once, and that was interesting. We got a picture, and that was kind of a cool thing. I read the script on the plane.
Nice. Ooh. I don't know if that's like watching a movie about a plane crash on a plane.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Weird.
Yeah.
If you were to choose, like assuming you've seen all the Final Destinations, if you had to choose your own death, like which of those downfalls would you choose for yourself? I mean, you had your own, but is there a different
bus.
one?
I would go. How would I be taken out?
Yeah.
The bus was quick and easy.
I like it.
It came out of nowhere. She had no idea. Boom, done.
Pretty good.
That's how I'd go. The nice thing, the interesting thing about the bus is we had no. The interesting thing about Final Destination 1 and shooting it is once I think the rest, and I don't really speak for them, but the rest of the movie they kind of knew what was going on. We had no idea what they were doing in 1. We didn't when they did that bus thing over 2 days and they put the dummy up and then they wrote a bus pass and then they did this and that. We didn't know until they finally put it all together that was going to happen. It was kind of like there was a lot of that in number 1.
Interesting. Yeah, so you're not really seeing what's happening as you're doing it.
We didn't know how creepy when the water was trickling down. That we weren't there when they were shooting it. You read it on paper and it kind of reads different. So to sit there the first time in the theater and watch it all put together for the first time, and to see the concept of Final Destination, for the first time was awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What would you say, is there like a big misconception that like non-working actors have about what happens on a film shoot or a TV shoot? Like, what are you seeing that we're not seeing?
Can't give away our secrets.
I mean, not all the secrets, but
I don't know. I don't know. It's there's a lot of misconceptions about the film business. I'm sure. It's long days. But then there's actors that have it pretty easy, I'm sure. I don't know. There's probably a lot of misconceptions.
Yeah, it's not as easy.
It's not as glamorous. It's not as glamorous.
I mean, I've never wanted to be famous, so there's reasons for that.
It is getting easier with the digital digital cameras, and we don't have to wait for we used to not be able to shoot a movie for less than 2 months, sometimes 3, because of camera reloads, and you can't play back right away. You'd have to take the film development and then watch dailies, and so sometimes something would mess up. You have to reshoot that. The digital world has definitely made it easier, and yeah.
Less hurry up and wait, but still some.
Yeah, less lighting, less crew. I don't know if that's good.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Speaking of less crew, you were talking about Hunter x Hunter was filmed on like a shoestring, and can you
no
talk about
money.
how that went?
I paid $100 to be in that film. No, not true. It was in Winnipeg. It was in the winter. It was the beginning of winter. We went up we believed in this script. We went up into the woods and we shot it, and it's on. I shouldn't be promoting. It's on Hulu.
Which we don't get here anyways.
Anyways, it's yeah. Sometimes you got to do those kind of movies that you just believe in. And usually they don't work out. Usually it's you believe in it and then it kind of fizzles. But this one worked out really well.
Yeah. How was it shooting? I mean, Winnipeg in the cold. Like, were you doing long days? Like, how did you prepare mentally and physically for that?
I actually prefer it to working in Winnipeg in the summer because of the mosquitoes and those other bugs. I can't remember what they're called. I'm sure someone knows.
Like midges or something.
Something like that. Winnipeg's great. I like Winnipeg. It's Toronto's my favorite city in Canada, and I'm from Vancouver, but Winnipeg's great.
Nice. So. Is there any questions back there? I thought
someone's got one more question. Come on.
Yeah, we still got time.
No?
I see one there.
Sure, why not? I was wondering, is there any, I know you mentioned that Idle Hands was your favorite to shoot, but are there any characters that you read and you were like, just completely connected with, and you were like, yeah, like I absolutely love this character, and I'm excited to, and I, you know, as an actor, I'm sure you connect with all your characters, but was there one that was like a favorite?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I like to stump people.
You stumped me. I think that I try to pick people that are as far apart from me, so I don't want to be connected. Do you know what I mean? Like if it's too me, it's not that much fun to do. Yeah, I think that's the answer. But I've had fun doing most of them. A character like Final Destination is pretty, like, that's kind of simple. That was kind of like just me. It was more about the movie. I like doing the Antons and the guy, the Sean from SLC Punks, and the Stans, and the, you know, all these from that show with the short guy. It's fun to like escape myself and go into other kind of things.
Yeah, you've kind of played like burnouts, and I think the first time I saw you in an adult role was on Real Detectives. So it's like you played cops, priests, whatnot. Yeah. Like, which one is more fun, doing like the burnouts or the good guys?
I like doing the burnout, the wacky. The wackier, the better. Yeah.
And that helped you distance from this as well, too.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have questions?
I know we can't talk about that show you've been in.
Right.
But what was it like working with Don Mansky?
Amazing. He's become a really good friend, and he's very talented. And what I love is that, you know, when we first started doing that show, a lot of people kind of like, you know, they didn't believe it would be good or what it is. And you know, we all kind of believed in it, and he did exactly what he wanted to do. Everything is what he's wanted to do, and he stuck with it, and that's why it is what it is now. And so I love the guy. I think the world of him. I really do. So, and I love Tilly is I got goosebumps thinking about Tilly. She's so much fun, and Fiona, and they're all so, it's like a little family up there. So, yeah. Yeah.
And speaking of horror, like, what is it that keeps you coming back to horror in general? Like, you're not just doing comedies or dramas.
I like that when I watch horror, it makes me feel, you know, uncomfortable, and then, you know, it makes you that laugh you get when you see someone getting their arm cut off, or there's I don't know what it is. You know, oh my God, that's so gross, but I love it. You know, that's listen, I'm like you people. It's just, I love horror. That's it. So.
Yeah, I think that's why, like, you gravitate to people who have the same interests as you. Like, there's people I've talked about horror with, and they're just like, ew, why would you like that? I'm like, okay, never mind. We're not going to get along.
These people are wacky. I like them.
Yeah, and you find your crew. Does anyone else have questions back there? Yeah, in front here.
Have you ever auditioned for a role which you didn't get?
Yeah. We got another hour to do this? Tell me, it goes with some of the roles I didn't get. Let me think of some of the, I'll tell you some of the ones. I met Sam Raimi on Spider-Man. I was one of the finalists on the Anakin Skywalker role that I was. It was even in the LA Times or something like that. It was like 5 of us, and none of those 5 guys on that list in the LA Times were hated. I was like, so. There's a lot of stuff that you audition. I was too young for Saving Private Ryan at the time, which I was really into. There's been tons of roles that I didn't get. That's just part of the business. That'll keep going for, you know, hopefully not, you know, until I become DiCaprio level. That keeps going. So.
I think there was a few other hands. Yeah, in the front here.
I love the fact that in that show you keep coming back every season as a different character.
Yeah.
Was that always the intent from the start?
No.
When I saw you in the seconds, I was like.
I was one and done. When I read the scripts, the scripts where I read all 8 scripts, I knew I was dying, and I knew that was one and done. So you kind of relax into it, knowing that's it. You're going to have fun with it. And it wasn't until I think second to last episode where we had coffee, and he's like, "Hey, you want to come back next year as a new character?" And I was like, "Yeah." So, and then it's every year I kind of worried that he won't invite me back again. Like right now I'm already sweating. Like, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I hope so too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's black here.
Kind of a statement and a question.
Okay.
It's funny because I can watch movies with blood and guts and it's fine, doesn't make me uncomfortable. But your face, like after you have your premonition in Final Destination when you're sweating, so that makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like the stress I feel.
Yeah. I was, I remember, I was 19 when I did that, and I remember being very nervous about shooting the plane stuff because I was just gonna. We never really talked about what we were gonna do. We never really talked about how big I was gonna get and how much of a freak out I was gonna do. So I was really nervous to do it. Like I was really nervous. I was just gonna put it all out there and just do it, and hopefully they didn't say, "Oh my God, that's way too big. Like, can you bring it down, or can you not be so sweaty and panty and cryy?" But luckily they liked it, and so I kind of it was. I remember being super nervous. I was like, I just have to go for it. I just have to, like, as soon as they say action, just fucking go for it. And I did, and that's what they used, and that's what you see today.
It's easier to bring it back than it is to push it out.
Yeah, but sometimes you find yourself scared to especially when you were dealing with a whole cast of young people, and there's an insecurity that comes along with being an actor, and sometimes you don't know whether you want to try something because you don't know how people are going to react, and so I just remember that at a young age doing just having to just fucking do it.
Speaking of young age, when did you realize you wanted to be an actor, and were your parents on board with it?
Yeah, so it was a punishment. I was in the 5th grade, and the teacher thought if I couldn't, if I wanted to be the center of attention, if I wanted to be the class clown every day, maybe I should join the theater. And so they put me in this James Cowan North Burnaby theater company, and it did nothing for my behavior in school, but boy did I love the theater. So
look where it led.
And here I am today. So things happen for a reason. So
hopefully that teacher is seeing you now.
Yeah, hope so.
All right.
Oh, she knew, I guess.
Yeah. As long as it gets me out of the classroom.
Yeah.
I think I had another hand over there.
Wild America.
Yeah.
Awesome movie.
Thank you.
When you got the script and you saw who the cast was going to be, were you concerned that it was just going to be like a bunch of hot guys in a movie and it would go nowhere?
As opposed to
all those uggos in the rest of the movies.
No, I didn't really.
That was a stacked cast at the time.
It was.
Well, yeah, me and Jonathan Taylor Thomas at that point were. He was. I knew he was bigger than me. He was getting the. Let me see the cover of that. He was getting.
Oh, you're right next to each other.
Well, open the cover. I bet you he's just a slight bit bigger than me.
All my covers are.
I carry this around for many years.
You got a whole piece.
I knew I was number 2 on the call sheet of that movie. It was a lot of fun though. I learned very quickly that he wanted to go to. He had other plans with his life. He was planning to go to Harvard. He was planning to and I wanted to be in film, and it was a lot of fun. I think we had a lot of fun on that show. He was way more mature than I was.
Were you the same age?
No, he's like 2 years younger, but we were doing the same schoolwork.
I don't know who that's worse for. Was there a sort of, did you feel that kind of rivalry, like looking at these other guys, be like, yeah, why is he getting bigger shots or like bigger acts or whatnot in movies?
I didn't look at too much like a rivalry at that time. I really didn't know how big those magazines were at the time. And so I knew that we were competition, obviously, but I don't think kids look at it the same as adults.
Yeah.
Maybe they do. I don't know. I didn't really.
There's always room on the wall for more.
Yeah, well, I was a lot bigger than him too, so it wasn't really like I would just pound him out if he he was getting a thumping.
Listen here, JTT. Is there another question? I saw the furthest one first.
One role I was surprised that drew me to you was Nikita.
Oh yeah.
How does it feel to be from being kind of like a somewhat fan favorite to turn to an ultimate villain at the end?
It was a lot of fun. That was my first. So I had taken that 5-year break in my 20s, and then I came back, and that was my first kind of. The whole landscape of Hollywood kind of changed in around that time. shows like ER and Sopranos and Sex and the City and all these things kind of started changing TV, and then we started going digital, and so it was a lot easier to. So Nikita was my first TV thing ever. I was also doing a lot of MMA back then. I had gone to Thailand and tried Muay Thai and was doing boxing and jiu-jitsu and all this stuff. And so it was like, oh my God, I'm going to do this cool action, my first action thing, and it was, and then to give me 2 different characters on that, and it was a good time, for sure. It's a long time ago.
I had a question, now it's gone. Oh yeah, is there any sort of genre that you haven't tried that you'd really want to get into?
Yeah, I've always wanted to do crime, like mob kind of. I have this, I don't know, I watch a lot of YouTube, like La Cosa Nostra mob stuff, and I've always, the whole Goodfellas and all that stuff. I don't know where I would fall in that, but I'm not the most Italian of looking guys.
I feel like you got the voice for it, though.
Yeah,
you got that, like, gravelly voice.
Maybe
you make it work.
Yeah.
I think, was there a green hair question?
Last question. You said you're a horror movie fan as well. Mm-hmm. So what's your favorite?
Oh, that's
top 3 at least.
So, like old school, I like The Shining, and I like Rosemary's Baby and Exorcist and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Obviously, I'm going way over 3. You can't just give me 3. And then I like a lot of the campy stuff. I like the Return of the Living Deads and the Critters and Tremors and all those. And then new school, I liked X and Pearl. I absolutely think the world of the what's it called, Devil's Rejects. I think that's fucking an awesome film. I'm so weird. What else? What else am I loving now? Those are the films that I kind of like. Yeah.
Yeah, here in the front, you had a question?
My question is about Final Destination. Was your approach to come back for the second one? Because they kind of put the character off screen. I never really understood that.
There was talks between agents and managers and studios and stuff like that, and it just didn't work out at the end of the day. So, but I'll never really know. I was young, and that was all behind closed doors between people in suits. So, yeah.
Yeah, being a young actor, like, how much did you have your own agency of what you wanted to do, or like was it all your management and stuff being like pushing you to do stuff?
Yeah, there was a lot of it was so weird back then, because the things that I wanted to do were like, for instance, I always wanted to do High Times magazine at the time, like, and my it's weird, but my agents and managers like, that's the stupidest idea you can do, and now everybody does it, and it's like,
I think back then I've seen it.
Like, that's just an example of like the thing I want. Like, for instance, I had to, like, the Stan video. They didn't want me to do that, and I had to do it anyways. And there was a lot of that going on. That I was like, I have to do this one. I have to do this.
Especially if they're trying to protect like this image, like Golden Boy. Like, you can't go on High Times magazine.
Right. Yeah.
And I've seen it with like other heartthrobs where they're like, oh, do you have a girlfriend? And you have to be like, no, I'm still looking for the right girl. Kind of like those.
Here, hold this puppy.
Yeah.
But I want to be on High Times. Can it be a high puppy?
We can make it happen now.
Yeah.
Thinking back, like, aside from the puppy, was there anything else that sticks in your mind? Is like, I can't believe I did that in a public forum.
They would get me to try to put on these. I don't know. It was tough. It was tough, but it's what I'm here today because of those. And so,
yeah. And one thing that kind of strikes me now, looking back at Now and Then, and thinking about why there's a strike and rights on set, looking back, I was like, there's a bunch of naked children on set. Like, how was that handled?
That's what, like, the people, I hate to break it to the people that think you can pause it at a certain time of the movie and see anything.
None of us did that.
We always had something on the front.
Yeah.
There was a completely closed, first of all, it was an all-female crew and cast. There was a few men walking around, but the DP, the director, Demi Moore was producing with the Todd sisters, who would later produce Idle Hands with me. It was very. You're right. We wouldn't get away with it nowadays, but it was very it was harmless, and I never at once did I feel like this is not I
right.
shouldn't be here. It was we had a list, we had socks on the front, and no one was around except for the camera crew, and so.
Nice. That's what I thought. I was having an argument with friends. They're like, it was the 90s. I'm like, it wasn't like the 60s. Like, we're not putting children naked on screen.
No.
Going on that, does anyone have a question? Sure.
My question is about Casper. How long did it take to film that scene when you guys are spinning in the air?
3 days. 3 days. Yeah, that. I mean, they got rid of the cables with CGI. I think. Oh, maybe not. I don't know. I can't remember. I don't know if you see them, but it took about 3 days to shoot that whole sequence. Yeah, they took their sweet time on movies back then.
3 days for like a minute
on
set. Wow.
Yeah.
I think I saw a hand back there. Yeah.
Given that you're such a fan yourself, what's the last time you really geeked out meeting somebody at one of these conventions?
That's a great question. I do it all the time.
When were you the Stan?
I liked meeting Neve Campbell. I had never met Neve Campbell, and she was on a plane with me, and I think she's terrific, and just a terrific human being. So I kind of geeked out there. And then the whole Terrifier group is kind of cool to see now. I see those guys a lot. Art the Clown signed an autograph for my kid, saying, "You do your homework or else." Art the Clown. And he now has that because he got in trouble before I did one of the conventions. He got in trouble for lying to us and not doing his homework one time, and so I got him Art the Clown to write.
Nice. And will you let your kids watch horror when they get to an old enough age?
They're not interested that much. My son has seen Evil Dead 2, just because it's so campy that it's fine. He did. I picked him up from a birthday party. He's 9. I picked him up from a birthday party, and he was strangely quiet in the back seat on the way home. And halfway through the car ride, he goes, "Dad, we watched The Terrifier." And I'm just like, shit. And that's why I got him the Art the Clown autograph. And he's not stopped doing his homework.
There you go. I mean, even though I've watched all this stuff, and a lot of stuff doesn't scare me, just looking at his face is terrifying.
Yeah.
That's why it's called that.
Yeah.
Can you remember the first horror movie you accidentally saw as a kid or saw at a sleepover?
The first stuff I remember being really, really young was Elvira. For some reason, I remember we would rent those movies. It was me and my cousin. This is we're talking 6 or 7 years old when we were renting some of these, because I had an aunt and uncle that they didn't care.
It was the 80s.
We went down to the basement, we'd watch whatever. But there was a ABC video down the street from us, and we had an ABC video card, and as long as we didn't go behind the curtain,
that one.
which we did, we were allowed to rent anything in the store, and so we would go through the horror section, and we would pick the movies that had the weirdest, that pumpkin head looks great, or whatever looked the great, and we would rent them all. So.
That's the time that kids now are not getting.
No.
It's they're scrolling through Netflix and being okay, that looks good.
And also you had no way of telling if the movie was good or not. You know what I mean? You just had to look at the cover and be like, "Oh, that looks interesting," and rent it. And I remember our Terrifier used to be Faces of Death.
Yeah.
That was our "Oh, did you see Faces of Death? Oh my God, that moose killed that guy. Oh my God." That was we would rent that, and that was our Terrifier.
Yeah, it's a different time.
Yeah.
So I think we're getting towards the end. I kind of wanted to ask you, if you weren't an actor, what would you be doing instead?
I would probably be a longshoreman. All my family's down there. My uncles, my cousins they all work down on the docks.
Really?
And my brother doesn't. He works for the city, but I'd probably be working down on the docks.
That's cool.
Most likely. I wasn't the greatest at school, so I don't know. I'd probably be doing something like that.
That's cool. Do they get a lot of flack being related to you?
I don't think so.
No, people are chill.
No, we don't. Cool. They're too drunk at family gatherings.
Yeah, you're here, whatever. I think we have time for 1 or 2 questions left. Just, in the back here, somebody's pointing at someone else.
I was just going to ask, is there a director you'd really love to work with?
Yeah, Scorsese, James Wan right now. I'm not that. Yeah, I think those are. I'd like to work with Spielberg again. He produced Casper and Little Giants, and he was there all the time. But I'd love to work with him now that I've grown up, and it's kind of like a closure to the. Yeah, there's a ton of directors I'd like to work with. Scorsese's up there. I like Scorsese a lot.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's your favorite Chucky movie?
Can we talk about that?
I think I could talk.
Yeah,
I think one started it all. One has the most nostalgic meaning to me. Like it just, I remember one. I remember it being the first. Two's great. I think those are my two favorite. I loved all the Jennifer Tilly shit. I think she's fun to watch. Yeah, those are the ones for sure.
So normally I would end by, or do you have a question we could squeak in there? Yeah.
Okay, so you've been in 2 big franchises. If there is another horror franchise that's rebooted, which one would you want to be in?
I had mentioned Freddy Krueger for. I can't remember where I mentioned, but it went kind of viral, and I think that that's something that I would love to tackle, but I would tackle it differently than the previous people that have tried to tackle the reboot. I think Freddy Krueger is Robert Englund's Freddy Krueger, and so I would play Robert Englund's Freddy Krueger. I would not try to make it my own or change it up. I would because he's openly said he wants to retire. I would do my best to honor his Freddy Krueger, I think. So, yeah.
That'd be interesting. 90s heartthrob Freddy Krueger.
There you go. It's a whole different cover.
So I think we have to wrap up. I just wanted to say thank you for coming, first of all.
Thanks for being here. Thanks, guys.
And is there... I know we can't talk about what you're doing right now, but is there anything we can talk about that's working for the future that you...
Please Google what I'm doing.
What you're doing.
Google the time that it plays. Watch it if you can.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Thanks everybody.